Senate will come to order. Secretary will call the roll.
Bear. Bayer. Bach. Brackett. Buckner-Webb. Cameron. Davis. Durst. Fulcher. Getty. Guthrie. Hagedorn. Hyder. Hill.
Here.
Johnson. Keogh. Lacey. Lakey. Lodge. Martin. McKenzie. Mortimer. Nonini. Nuxel. Patrick. Pierce. Rice. Schmidt. Sidaway. Stennett. Thane. Tippett. Vick. Work. Winder. Lacey. Sidaway.
Senator Tippett will be recognized as president in this order of business. Roll call shows 34 present, 1 absent or excused. Senator Sidaway has requested and received an excused absence for this legislative day. Senate will advance to the second order of business, prayer and pledge of allegiance. We'll be led in the prayer this morning by our Senate chaplain, Pastor James Wibberding. We invite our guests in the gallery to stand and join with us in prayer.
Designation, but I also recognize. Can we not hear me? There we go. All right. I also recognize that's not a passive role. Not only are you representatives of the collective thought, you are also thought leaders. And so in that role, I would like to pray for you this week that you are effective thought leaders as you explain to the rest of us how this works. Let's pray. God in heaven, I thank you for the leadership opportunities that are contained in this week. I thank you also for these good senators, careful public servants who serve with good hearts and good intentions. I ask that you will bless them as they lead us once again this week. Give them the insight, the wisdom, all that they need to be effective leaders in our state. Thank you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. We'll be led in the Pledge of Allegiance by our Senate page, Michael Swanson.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Senate will advance to the third order of business, reading and correction of the journal.
February 4th, 2013, the Judiciary and Rules Committee reports that the Senate Journal of the proceedings of February 1st, 2013 was read and approved as corrected. Lodge Chairman.
Without objection, the journal will be filed in the office of the Secretary. Senator Davis.
Mr. President, personal privilege.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senators, just a quick roadmap. Today we need to adjourn by 11:45 this morning. So be aware we're not going to get quite the degree of work done I had hoped, but we'll need to adjourn at that time today. It is our intent to go into the 10th order of business, and in the event that we are successful with our work in that order, then it is also our intent to go into the third reading calendar. A few items will need to be held throughout the morning. Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent to advance to the 6th order of business.
Hearing no objection, the Senate will advance to the 6th order of business, reports of standing committees.
February 4th, 2013, the Judiciary and Rules Committee reports that Senate Bill 1050, 1051, 1052, Senate Concurrent Resolutions 103 and 104 have been correctly printed. Lodge Chairman.
Senate Bill 1050, 1051, and 1052 will be referred to the Transportation Committee. And Senate concurrent resolutions 103 and 104 will be referred to the 10th order of business and held for one legislative day.
February 4th, 2013, the State Affairs Committee reports it has had under consideration the gubernatorial appointments of Gregory J. Shea to the State Building Authority, term to expire January 1st, 2017, and Janie Lynn Riviere as Administrator of Division of Financial Management, and her term will continue at the pleasure of the Governor. The committee recommends those said appointments be confirmed by the Senate. Mackenzie, Chairman.
Reports dealing with the gubernatorial appointments of Gregory J. Shady and Janie Lynn Revere will be referred to the 10th order of business and held for one legislative day.
There is no further business in the 6th order, Mr. President.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent to send advance to the 8th order of business.
Hearing no objection, the Senate will advance to the 8th order of business. Messages from the Governor.
January 31st, 2013, the Honorable Brad Little, President of the Senate. Dear Mr. President, I have the honor to inform you that Brian Scigliano of Boise, Idaho, was appointed to the Public Charter School Commission to serve a term commencing September 17, 2012, and expiring May 12, 2016. Dear Mr. President, I have the honor to inform you that Suzanne Budge of Boise, Idaho, was appointed to the Hazardous Waste Facility Siting License Application Review Panel to serve a term commencing March 30, 2012, and expiring March 6, 2015. Dear Mr. President, I have the honor to inform you that Mark P. von Lindern of Lewiston, Idaho, was appointed to the Hazardous Waste Facility Siting License Application Review Panel to serve a term commencing March 30, 2012, and expiring March 6, 2015. Dear Mr. President, I have the honor to inform you that Joe B. McNeil of Mountain Home, Idaho, was appointed to the Idaho Commission on Human Rights to serve a term commencing July 1, 2012, and expiring July 1, 2015. Dear Mr. President, I have the honor to inform you that James C. Hammond of Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, was appointed to the Idaho State Racing Commission to serve a term commencing January 17, 2013, and expiring January 1, 2019. These appointments were made subject to confirmation by the Senate, and notice of appointments is hereby given. As always, Idaho, C.L. Butch-Otter, Governor of Idaho.
The gubernatorial appointment of Brian Scigliano will be referred to the Education Committee. The gubernatorial appointments of Suzanne Budge and Mark von Lindern will be referred to the Health and Welfare Committee. And the gubernatorial appointments of Joe McNeil and James Hammond will be referred to the State Affairs Committee. The correspondence will be filed in the office of the Secretary.
There is no further business in the 8th order, Mr. President.
The Senate will advance to the 9th order of business. Messages from the House.
February 1st, 2013. Mr. President, I transmit herewith House Bill 11, 24, 25, 52, 32, and House Bill 33, which have passed the House. Alexander, Chief Clerk.
House Bills 11, 24, 25, 52, 32, and 33 will be referred to the 11th order of business for introduction.
There is no further business in the 9th order, Mr. President.
Senate will advance the 10th order of business, motions and resolutions.
Mr. President.
Senator Davis.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that the gubernatorial appointment of Senator Leland Heinrich to the Board of Tax Appeals hold its place on the calendar for one legislative day. May I explain?
Senator has the floor.
Thank you. Well, of course, first of all, he joins us here today. That's not the reason. But the floor sponsor has had some impromptu other assignments and is not able to make that presentation right now.
Without objection, the gubernatorial appointment of Leland Heinrich will be held for one legislative day. Senate now has before it for final consideration the committee report dealing with the gubernatorial appointment of Alan R. Schneider to the Commission for the Blind and Visually Impaired. Secretary will read the report.
February 1st, 2013, the Health and Welfare Committee reports it has had under consideration the gubernatorial appointment of Alan R. Schneider to the Commission for the Blind and Visually Impaired, term to expire July 1st, 2015. The committee recommends that said appointment be confirmed by the Senate. Hyder, Chairman.
Senator Schmidt.
Mr. President, I move adoption of the committee report.
I second it.
Heard the motion and the second. Senator Schmidt is recognized to open debate on the motion.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I would be glad to. This man who will serve, given our endorsement and the governor's appointment to serve on the Commission for the Blind and Visually Impaired, fulfills both the statutory requirement as well as the requirement of someone doing this public service. That is, he has enthusiasm, he has experience, and he has the skills to do this job. He has served for quite a while in his town of Emmett as a teacher. He has coached track. He has, one of the statutory requirements you may be familiar with is that people on the board need to have visual impairment, and he suffers from retinitis pigmentosa, which has significantly decreased his vision over years, and has worked in his local community to develop a support group for the visually impaired. He has this passion, and I would encourage your support for him on this commission. I think he's an excellent appointment. Thank you. Debate is open.
Debate being open, is there further debate? Senator Thane.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to also support this appointment of Alan Schneider to this position. He taught in Emmett for quite a few years. He actually was the voice of the announcer at the football games. I'm not sure who told him what was going on in the field, but it was quite interesting. One of his sons was the same age as my oldest son, and it was actually in his home that I first saw that was exposed to the internet. And he's a very delightful person. I urge you to support him.
Is there further debate? Hearing none, Senator Schmidt is recognized to close debate.
Thank you, Mr. President, and debate is closed.
Debate being closed, the question is, shall the Senate approve the committee report? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Ayes have it, and the report has been adopted by the Senate. Report will be filed in the office of the Secretary, and the Governor will be so notified. The Senate now has before final consideration the committee report pertaining to the gubernatorial appointment of Eric R. Anderson to the Idaho Energy Resources Authority. Secretary will read the report.
February 1st, 2013, the State Affairs Committee reports it has had under consideration the gubernatorial appointment of Eric R. Anderson to the Idaho Energy Resources Authority, term to expire June 30th, 2016. The committee recommends that said appointment be confirmed by the Senate. McKenzie, Chairman.
Senator Keel.
Mr. President, I move that the Senate adopt the committee report.
Mr. President, I second the motion.
Senator Keel is recognized to open debate on the motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's my honor to present to you today for your consideration this gubernatorial appointment of Eric R. Anderson of Priest Lake to the Idaho Energy Resources Authority. Many of you know Representative Anderson and have had the opportunity to serve with him. The Idaho Energy Resources Authority promotes development and financing for power facilities, and it's a tool for power suppliers to keep our rates low. Representative Anderson was elected to the House of Representatives in 2004 and continues his service today. He has also been the co-chairman of the Idaho Environmental Common Sense Task Force, and he has served on the Pacific States Marine Fisheries Commission, and he's the chairman of the Invasive Species Committee of the Pacific Northwest Economic Region. Representative Anderson's educational background includes a Bachelor of Arts in Political Science and Government from Eastern Washington University. He has a credentialed director program through the National Rural Electric Cooperative Association, and he has participated in the board leadership training program. And he went to the Emerging Political Leaders of America at the Darden University of Virginia and participated in the Western Legislative Academy of the Council of State Governments West. Representative Anderson's community service work not only includes his service in the House of Representatives, but for 17 years, he has been the commissioner and captain of the West Priest Lake Fire Department. He's been board member and chairman for 12 years of the Outlet Bay Sewer District, and for 14 years, he has been a board member of the Northern Lights Electric Cooperative, and he has many other services that he has been involved in and continues to be involved in his community. I'd also like to note, many of you know that Representative Anderson is an Eagle Scout, and that he, along with other Eagle Scouts here in this body and the body across the rotunda and throughout the Capitol building, including some of our Green Tag friends, started the Capitol Eagles and have had a special involvement in the scouting program. It's really an honor for me to carry this appointment. Representative Anderson is well-versed in energy policy. He is looked to as a leader here in the state and across the country on that issue and many others. And so with that, Mr. President, debate is open.
Debate being open, is there further debate? Senator McKenzie.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to briefly add my recommendations for Representative Anderson. I co-chair that Environmental Common Sense Task Force with him. It's been a vehicle where we've been able to address some of the invasive species issues that Eric has championed, and is really an international leader on that. And it has a huge effect on energy and energy policy. And he is definitely a leader on developing those policies in the Northwest, and so I think he's a great choice. Thank you, Mr. President.
Is there further debate? Hearing none, Senator Keough is recognized. Closed debate.
Thank you, Mr. President. Debate is closed.
Debate being closed, the question is, shall the Senate adopt the committee report? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Ayes have it, and the report has been adopted by the Senate. The report will be filed in the office of the Secretary, and the Governor will be so notified. Senate now has before it for final consideration the gubernatorial appointment of Gary L. Mon to the Idaho Endowment Fund Investment Board. Secretary will read the report.
The State Affairs Committee reports it has had under consideration the gubernatorial appointment of Gary L. Mon to the Idaho Endowment Fund Investment Board, term to expire April 11, 2016. The committee recommends that said appointment be confirmed by the Senate. McKenzie, Chairman.
Mr. President.
Senator Fulcher.
Mr. President, I move that the Senate adopt the committee report.
Mr. President, I second the motion.
You've heard the motion. Senator Fulcher is recognized to open debate on the motion.
Thank you, Mr. President and Senators. Gary Mon is a pretty well-known name in this state, and you may recall him as our former director of the Idaho Department of Commerce. And he was in that role under then Governor Kemp Thorne. But he's also got a list of accomplishments and memberships. It's really a who's who across the state of Idaho. He's a former chairman of the Board of Fisheries Document Systems. He also was a co-founder of a software company called Learned Mon, based here in Boise. Gary has a Bachelor of Science degree from the University of Idaho and a master's from Wharton School at the University of Pennsylvania. He's also a CPA, and he served his country as a naval officer from 1966 to 1970. He still serves as a member of the board of directors for the Idaho Independent Bank as well. And throughout his years of service, in addition to being the director for the Department of Commerce, he served on numerous boards. In fact, just looking through the list, there's about 28 different boards and awards and memberships that he's been part of, including chairman of the Blue Cross Board of Directors, vice chairman for St. Alphonsus Regional Medical Center, YMCA, Rotary Club, Salvation Army, Idaho Public Television. Senators, Mr. Mon has a long list of service and accomplishments in this state. I encourage your support, and with that, Mr. President, debate's open.
Debate being open, is there further debate? Hearing none, Senator Fulcher is recognized to close debate.
Thank you, Mr. President. Debate's closed.
Debate being closed, the question is, shall the Senate adopt the committee report? All in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. Ayes have it, and the report has been adopted. It will be filed in the office of the Secretary, and the Governor will be so notified.
There is no further business in the 10th order, Mr. President.
Senate will advance to the 11th order of business, introduction and first reading of bills.
Mr. President.
Senator Davis.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that all bills on first reading be read by number, author, and title only, and the general show. They've been read at length.
Hearing no objection, it is so ordered.
In the House of Representatives, House Bill number 11 by Business Committee, an act relating to casualty insurance contracts, to provide a ground for an insurer to refuse to renew a certain policy and to make a technical correction. In the House of Representatives, House Bill number 24 by Revenue and Taxation Committee, an act relating to sales tax revenues used for elections, to revise how the increase for inflation will be distributed to counties for costs incurred in administrating elections and to make technical corrections. In the House of Representatives, House Bill number 25 by Revenue and Taxation Committee, an act relating to property tax administration, to require that files include certain contact information. In the House of Representatives, House Bill number 52 by Revenue and Taxation Committee, an act relating to the Circuit Breaker Property Tax Relief Program, to revise grounds when no application for deferral of property taxes shall be granted. In the House of Representatives, House Bill number 32 by Health and Welfare Committee, an act relating to the Board of Psychologists Examiners, to provide that the board shall have the power to establish by rule the standards and requirements for the use of communication technology in the practice of psychology. In the House of Representatives, House Bill number 33 by Health and Welfare Committee, an act relating to the Occupational Therapy Licensing Board, to revise provisions relating to a limited permit and to make technical corrections.
House Bill 11 will be referred to the Commerce and Human Resources Committee. House Bill 24, House Bill 25, and House Bill 52 will be referred to the Local Government and Taxation Committee. House Bill 32 and House Bill 33 will be referred to the Health and Welfare Committee.
There is no further business in the 11th order, Mr. President.
Senate will advance to the 12th order of business, second reading of bills. Senator Davis.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that all bills on second reading be read by number and author only, in the general show. They've been read at length.
Without objection, is so ordered.
In the House of Representatives, House Bill number 5 by Revenue and Taxation Committee,
House Bill number 5 will be referred to the 13th order of business, third reading calendar.
there is no further business in the 12th order, Mr. President.
Senate will advance to the 13th order of business, third reading of bills. The Senate now has before it for final consideration House Bill number 2. Secretary will read the bill.
In the House of Representatives, House Bill number 2 by Revenue and Taxation Committee, an act relating to income taxes to allow a
Mr.
deduction.
President?
Senator Work.
President, I ask unanimous consent that further reading of House Bill 2 be dispensed with. The general show it's been read at length, section by section, and is before the Senate for final consideration.
You've heard the unanimous consent request. Is there objection? Hearing none, it is so ordered, and Senator Work is recognized to open debate.
Thank you, Mr. President. Fellow senators, under current Idaho law, some losses, such as theft losses, which can include Ponzi scheme losses, are deductible only as an itemized deduction and are not allowed as part of an Idaho net operating loss, or NOL, even though it's allowed as a federal net operating loss. Incidentally, this comes from the Tax Commission. This means that these losses may be fully deducted over 1 or more years on a federal return, but only fully deducted on the Idaho return if the taxpayer has sufficient income in the year to fully absorb the loss. A problem arises when the taxpayer receives a recovery of all or part of the loss in a subsequent tax year. The loss recovery is taxable on the federal return, as it should be. This income flows over to the Idaho return and is taxed even though the underlying loss might not have been deducted in full or in part on your original Idaho return. In effect, Idaho is taxing phantom income. The bill corrects this unfairness by allowing a deduction for Idaho purposes, an amount equal to the amount of the recovery if the taxpayer did not receive a deduction for the loss on a prior Idaho return. In other words, we don't want to tax the loss recovered if no benefit of the loss has been claimed.
The bill does not increase the amount of the loss deducted on the Idaho tax return. There is a fiscal impact. It's going to reduce the general fund, they estimate, by about $250,000 a year. But this is a bill to try and inject some fairness into the tax system so that people that experience these losses don't end up getting taxed when they get benefits back on the federal side, but they don't see them in Idaho. So, Mr. President, with that, debate is open.
Debate being open, is there further debate? Hearing none, Senator Work is recognized to close debate.
Debate is closed.
Debate being closed, the question is, shall House Bill 2 pass the Senate? Secretary will call the roll.
Bear. Bayer. Bach. Brackett. Buckner Webb. Cameron. Davis. Durst. Fulcher. Getty. Guthrie. Hagedorn. Hyder. Hill.
Aye.
Johnson. Keough. Lacey. Lakey. Lodge. Martin. McKenzie. Mortimer. Nonini. Nuxel. Patrick. Pierce. Rice. Schmidt. Sidaway. Stennett. Thane. Tippett. Vick. Work. Winder. Sidaway.
Roll call shows 34 aye, 1 absent or excused. Majority having voted in the affirmative, House Bill 2 has passed the Senate. Is there correction to the title? Hearing none, title is approved, and House Bill 2 will be returned to the House of Representatives. Senate now has before it for final consideration House Bill 3. Secretary will read the bill.
In the House of Representatives, House Bill Number 3 by Revenue and Taxation Committee, an act relating to taxes by the addition of a new section.
Mr. President.
Senator Rice.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that further reading of House Bill 3 be dispensed with and that the journal show it's been read the third time at length, section by section, and placed before the Senate for final consideration.
For the unanimous consent request, is there objection? Hearing none, it is so ordered, and Senator Rice is recognized to open debate.
Mr. President, Senators, this is a bill that addresses a problem we have with identity theft. Currently, if someone files a tax return using someone else's Social Security number or tax ID number, and the true owner of that number then files their return is rejected, but the tax commission can't provide any information to the taxpayer whose identity has been stolen. This allows the tax commission to give them identifying information so that they have that, and that makes it easier for them to file police reports and take action to mitigate the damage and stop the person who's stealing their identity. And so that's the purpose of this bill. That's what it does. It authorizes that disclosure without disclosing the financial information that may be on the return by the person who's using someone else's identifying information. And with that, debate is open.
Debate being open, is there further debate?
Mr. President.
Senator Durst.
Mr. President, would the senator from 10 yield to a question, please?
Senator Rice, yield to a question.
Mr. President, I would.
Senator Durst, to state your inquiry.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator, does this cover those situations where potentially two parents who have joint custodial may be trying to claim a child at the same time and being able to find out what's going on with that?
Senator Rice to respond.
Mr. President, Senator from 18, that's not actually an identity theft situation. Those particular situations, there are certain IRS rules that deal with that, and there are the court orders. And so the remedy in those situations is going to be going back to the court and getting an order rather than this. This isn't intended to address that at all, and it doesn't.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Is there further debate? Hearing none, Senator Rice is recognized to close debate.
Mr. President, debate is closed.
Debate being closed, the question is, shall House Bill 3 pass the Senate? Secretary will call the roll.
Bear. Bayer. Bach. Brackett. Buckner-Webb. Cameron. Davis. Durst. Fulcher. Getty. Guthrie. Hagedorn. Hyder. Hill. Johnson. Keough. Lacey. Lakey. Lodge. Martin. McKenzie. Mortimer. Nonini. Nuxel. Patrick. Pierce. Rice. Schmidt. Sitaway. Stennett. Thane. Tippett. Fick. Work. Winder. Sitaway.
Roll call shows 34 aye, 1 absent or excused. Majority having voted in the affirmative,